U.S. News and World Report's newsroom in Washington, D.C. We're talking with our defense reporter, Paul Shinkman, who's down in Guantanamo Bay at the legal center for the pretrial of Khalid Sheikh Muhammad. Now, Paul, can you tell us a little bit about where you are right now?
Well, right now I'm inside what used to be an airplane hangar at Camp Justice in Guantanamo Bay, or Gitmo as they call it in the military. This section of the base has been specifically built and reformulated to handle this specific trial. And part of that includes a series of media center complexes. So I'm in this building inside of the hangar that they've purposely set up for media. And if you bear with me a second, I can kind of show you the setup down here. This is an empty room, but you can see this sort of classroom setup, and those TVs over there in the corner are where, or up against the wall, or where they show live feeds of the court proceedings for the journalists who don't go in to see it live.
Great. Now, can you tell us who's being tried and who's trying them on what charges?
So there are, the case is called Khalid Sheikh Muhammad et al., and it's Khalid Sheikh Muhammad, who's sort of the accused mastermind of 9/11. That's the term that often gets used for him. And then 4 other men associated with Al-Qaeda, and they're facing charges of terrorism associating with Al-Qaeda, and then of course willfully killing the almost 3,000 people who died on 9/11. It's a military commission, so it's obviously taking place on this military base here, where they're also housed in the detention facility, which they call Camp Sept. And yeah, it's taking place right across the runway from here.
And what exactly happens at a pretrial versus a trial?
So this is where the court gets a chance to examine all of the charges that have been filed against each of the defendants and figure out that that process has been done appropriately. Unfortunately, well, I don't know, unfortunately, incidentally, the whole process has been completely sidetracked by this incident that you may have heard about at the end of January, where all of a sudden the live feed of the court proceedings got cut off by a yet unnamed third party. It's a government organization tasked with ensuring that no classified information is leaked, and that organization, and we still I don't even know where on the globe they are, felt that the lead prosecuting, or the lead defense attorney, David Nevin, who's representing Khalid Sheikh Muhammad, was about to say something that would have leaked classified information. So they shut down the hearing. Even the judge, Colonel James Pohl, had no idea what was going on. And that's led to this sort of cascade effect where now defense attorneys are investigating other places where their defendants could be being monitored by the government.
And what can you tell us about the pace of this trial and when we can expect a verdict?
Well, that's still yet unclear. I mean, as I said, the purpose of these hearings has been sidetracked by these investigations that have been focusing on whether or not the government can listen in on what attorneys and clients are saying to one another in the courtroom. There was evidence that came up this week that the meeting rooms in which they meet, which are supposed to be private between the attorneys and the clients, these defendants, have been bugged for a previous purpose, but that the government could conceivably listen to that. So there's no end in sight for these immediate hearings, although they're scheduled to end on Thursday. There's no end in sight for how many more of these hearings will happen, and legal experts that I've talked to have said that the trial could not take place until prospectively 2015.
Great. And can you tell us just briefly what you've seen in terms of the suspects in the courtroom, that kind of thing down there?
Well, it's a really interesting setup. Where we sit, where journalists sit, is in the observation gallery, which is in the very back of the courtroom. We're in there with other observers, a few law school students, a few NGO workers. I know there are people here from Human Rights Watch and a few blogs like that. And then we're in the same facility as what they call victims' family members, VFMs, or people who were related to somebody who died on 9/11 because of the attacks. So they're in the room there too. So it's interesting to see all of those people who were there. And then that looks out onto this massive room where there are 5 banks of tables, one for each of the defendants and their attorneys on one side of the room, and then the prosecuting attorneys on the opposite side of the room. And I think everybody is interested to see these men in the flesh. They've been depicted so frequently in the media. We see pictures of them so often. I know for me, this is the first time that I've covered this, and it was absolutely fascinating seeing them in person.
Great. Well, is there anything else you think is really important that we should know about your experience down there?
Well, it's been interesting kind of seeing all of the emotions that go around. I mean, obviously for the victims' family members, this is something that is a very important moment for them. I mean, they're seeing these people firsthand who are accused of taking away their loved ones. I talked to a few of them, this one woman in particular whose husband ran up on foot to the 78th floor of the South Tower and died there after the second plane hit that. And she was saying, you know, in keeping with what I was saying before, the legal process, that it's painfully slow. Those are the words that she used. But then she also said that this process is so important, and she wants to make sure that this is done correctly. So there's this sort of silver lining to that issue where through all of this minutia, she can see that this is being done correctly and that nobody can get let off on a technicality, she said.
Well, it's a pretty incredible process, and thanks for being down there to witness it for us. Be sure and check back with us at usnews.com for more updates. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Rebecca. Good to talk to you.